The final game of what's been a memorable tour by England in India. It started off with a thrilling Test match series. Started off with a toss win. It's going to end with a toss win. So one thing that they'll take away, even though they lost the Tests and the T20Is, is they've won a lot of tosses. Maybe they could win the ODI series and end on a high note. We'll discuss that third ODI on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G. Very reliable pairing of Ian Bell and Sanjay Majrekar still with me. And as I go to Ian, first up, what is it now? 3 out of 4 in the Tests, 3 out of 5 in the T20s, and 3 out of 3 in the ODIs. That's a lot of tosses to win, no matter who shows up for them, Ian.
Incredible. Tosses and quizzes, we're all right, I think, at the moment. So we're all right. But, phenomenal. And again, there's no doubt. I think this is a big toss, isn't it, to win, looking at the conditions and batting in the light. I think England have been fantastic with the bat, but great conditions and another good toss to win.
Yeah, it was almost a bit of a, everyone's enjoying the rub of the green going England's way. Joss Butler had a bit of a smile. Virat Kohli also had a bit of like, what do I need to do, to get one going my way? And here he is for the first time in this series, though, Sanjay saying this time, had I won the toss, I would have bowled first.
See, I told you, he's very honest, when it comes to disclosing his thoughts at the toss or the post-match presentation as well. So clearly, when he said that we would have also opted to field first had he won the toss, so that India realized that, batting first is not such a great idea. And especially against England, because you would think 336 against a team like maybe Bangladesh or New Zealand in India would have been enough. But against England, you better be wanting to chase first with all the advantages possible for you as a team. So, yes, another important toss, especially in these conditions where the pitch is good to bat on in the afternoon, but great when the lights are on.
Ian, Joss Butler will be very pleased with that toss, I'm guessing, after what we saw in the last game. And the change that England have made is one that you called as well. You would like to see Mark Wood back. You did say he's likely to play the first and third ODI. That's exactly what's happened. And coming in for Tom Curran does make that bowling lineup look a lot more, with a lot more muscle, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good. And it's actually good, pleasing as well that they've gone with Reece Topley as well, who I thought had a good game. And he gives them a lot of angles, doesn't it? Another tall left armour there. So yeah, there's as expected with Wood coming back, offers a lot of firepower. He's bowled really quick in this white ball series, so that's probably England's strongest team that they've got to field at the moment out there, with obviously no Archer and Wokes and Root available. So yeah, England will be very happy with that, winning the toss and probably fielding their strongest team at the moment.
Yeah, no Owen Morgan as well, but you like the call that England have made, Sanjay, from what we saw of Reece Topley, probably take the new ball. Mark Wood for Tom Curran just makes that a stronger bowling side.
Absolutely. And Mark Wood has that X factor, doesn't he? I just hope that, and I'm sure he would have taken some learning from what happened so far in the white ball phase of this tour for England, that the short ball has worked as well as it did in the first part of the T20 series and the one-day series as well. So I hope the length, we see more variation of length from Mark Wood. I like the change. I like India's change as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that then. And Virat Kohli says it's tactical. There was a case, we were wondering whether Yuzvendra Chahal would come in as another wrist spin option, but he's gone for Natarajan instead of Kuldeep Yadav. So it's been a forgettable couple of games for Kuldeep Yadav, none for 68 in the first ODI, none for 84 in the second. But the left-arm seam of Natarajan, Sanjay, do you like that change?
It's something that we talked about, that could be, a likely change, or we felt that, that would be a good one, because Natarajan is one of those guys, a hardened, seasoned bowler who can keep, the runs down and people go berserk like Stokes and Bairstow. He's a seamer that Virat can go to make sure that there is, some damage control. Also, the fact that the pitch hasn't turned for the likes of Kuldeep Yadav, especially because he's bowled second every time. And when you bowl second, there's really nothing there in the pitch. And there's, with India's, toss, the way the tosses are going, there was a 90% chance that Kuldeep Yadav would have had the ball under lights again. So I like the change, and with the toss loss, this makes even more sort of, convenient for India that they've got plenty of seam options. By also getting an extra seam bowler, they're trying to tell us perhaps before the match begins that Hardik Pandya won't bowl.
Okay, and in which case, it's an interesting point that Sanjay makes in. It would have been very cute. I would have been curious to see if Kuldeep Yadav finally had a chance to bowl in the afternoon, whether that would have made a difference. But this looks like a more sound call, looking at how the toss has gone. The fact that you're going to have just that one finger spinner in Krunal Pandya in the evening, and you have the extra seam option against England.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It hasn't been an easy pitch, has it, for spinners, full stop. I think Moeen Ali bowled well the other day, contained quite well. India might be a bit more aggressive today, but most spinners have found it hard, I think, at Pune at the moment. So, yeah, it's a really smart call. I also think, credit as well. I know it's tough on Yadav. He's found it hard, but Bairstow in particular has been pretty ruthless. As soon as he's missed his area and he's gone too full, he's just been ruthless and just drop kicked him into the stand, hasn't he? So the batting's been high quality against him, but it's a great call, I think, for India for the conditions they've got now and losing the toss. It's a very good selection.
Okay, now I'm delighted that this is the result of the toss, because it sets up a lovely conversation on our pre-match show, especially in the aftermath of what happened on Friday. 337 gunned down in that sort of fashion. And Sanjay Majrekar went in detail about India's approach. We've written extensively about it on ESPN Cricinfo too. And Ian Bell's pointed out, we get to see India to be a little more aggressive. Moeen Ali bowled 10 overs for 47 that day. Let's get both of you to try and break down what the potential approach could be today. What should it be today? Sanjay.
Okay, we see some of the players doing this, and the noise from outside is often termed as nonsense, and they don't care about it. But I have absolutely no doubt that India will bat differently in the first 30 overs. And you'll see that happening today. I thought one of the grave mistakes they made in the last game, playing the old-fashioned way, was allowing somebody like Moeen Ali to bowl 10 overs for 47, because there wasn't any attempt to go after him, because India thought we'll lay a foundation and 300 and thereabouts should be good enough. And they got a real wake-up call, because not only did England chase that down, they chased it down with 6 overs to spare. So absolutely no doubt in my mind that you'll see a different approach in the first 25 overs today. I don't think there'll be that laying down the foundation at your own pace that you'll see today.
Ian?
Yeah, I think, again, it can be quite simple, can't it? I mean, I think if England gone at around 7 and over in the power play, India have gone at 4 in that first 10. So if India can tweak that a bit and go a little bit higher, I mean, they're batting through the middle generally. Yes, they could have taken Moeen Ali for more, but it's always good, isn't it? I mean, Virat Kohli's world class, and obviously their death hitting at the end is. So it's only small tweaks, but I think a little bit more aggression up top. England are always trying to get ahead of the game, aren't they? They go so hard up front and nearly drag the rate down to quite controllable through the middle, but they're always looking for that boundary. So yes, I think India will definitely, and Sanjay's absolutely right, I think there'll be a lot more aggression today. And it's a one-off game. I think, like the last T20 as well, England, there's a little bit more pressure today. The fact that they get it wrong, they lose the series. But I expect India to be a little bit more aggressive in certain areas and target certain bowlers a little bit more today.
Okay, let's try and understand how approaches change, right? India have been fairly cautious in the first 10. They even lost a couple of wickets in the first 6 or 7 in the second ODI. When you're saying, Sanjay, that you expect them to bat differently in the first 30, even in that, is there a breakdown of different periods when it comes to ODI cricket? Because England do the other thing. England just go. And when one guy gets out, the other guy comes and he plays the same way. Maybe Ben Stokes or Joe Root play differently and the target helps, but they have a different sort of modus operandi to this. India now, are you still saying that they've got to almost emulate the England model, or there's a case to, again, play about 8 to 10 overs, but bat differently from 11 to 25?
See, let's not forget what we see with England, the approach that they have with people like Bairstow, and then you've got Jason Roy, then Butler to follow, or Morgan for that matter. They're playing actual game. You never get the impression or the feeling that they're playing something that is alien to them, just because they want to have that kind of culture of batting within their side. So it suits them. Johnny Bairstow, when he goes after Kuldeep Yadav, you don't see that as a guy throwing caution to the wind. So they're playing their natural game. They have the ability, and the pitch has been excellent here in Pune for them to play in this fashion. So the pitch has been a pleasant surprise, I'm sure, for the English after the kind of pitches that we saw in the test matches. So that's England's thing. India, all they have to do is Shikhar Dhawan will have to play the way he does. What we saw with Virat Kohli and K. Rahul in that big partnership was there was a clear attempt to just build a partnership. And as I said in the last game as well, K. Rahul, the first 6 that he hit was after he got to 50. So he would have consumed about 55, 60 balls. So when you have an Adil Rashid or Moeen Ali, and if you fancy your chances, then India will have to stay in the moment and try and, make the most of it. Not just because Moeen Ali is bowling in the first 25 overs, should he get the respect that he got. So that is the only change that I see. I don't see Virat Kohli suddenly, going the other extreme or for that matter, Rahul, but they have the ability to score a lot quicker than they did during that long partnership of theirs.
We look at it's amazing that we're having this conversation, but it's perhaps how far the ODI game has come. I can totally see a lot of fans saying, if you get 335, 340, your bowling shouldn't be conceding that in 42, 43 overs. Now, is that one way of looking at it, that you're not always going to get 380, 390? So 330, if you've almost played the right sort of game, or is that not valid anymore looking at the opposition? Ian?
I think it's better, but I think Sanjay has already said, I think this is an excellent surface, isn't it? It's a high scoring game. So 330 probably is about par, isn't it? But this England side, again, are very used to, even more so than probably the teams that I played in, I think the power they have is quite incredible all the way down. So they're not scared of, boundary options through the middle. They're not scared of boundary options at the end. So, and they've got regularly, this group have got scores of near 400 and 400. So they know that they've got it in the tank. It's just making the right decisions. I think what we saw in the first ODI was they were on track again to knock off a good high score, but just made a few wrong decisions. In the second one, they were ruthless. So, look, I think they're very comfortable now chasing down 330. I do agree with maybe the bowling could have been a bit better, but England had the right conditions. And more often than not, if you do get 330, you should defend that. But this England side now have moved the game on, I think, like I said, and they're very comfortable, and the confidence and belief they have to chase anything down. And what we will see is they will always, they'll either, they probably won't get that close to it sometimes, and they'll burn themselves out going too hard, but they'll always give themselves a chance of trying to get the biggest score they possibly can, or chasing down anything. And they have the tools to do that. And you have to do that. I mean, it's not to say that we're always going to have to play this way, because I think at the moment we're very lucky and blessed with the kind of strikers, power players, and a white ball generation of players that are quite incredible together at the same time.
Sanjay, if India do take that approach of okay, Stokes played a blinder, it's not going to happen every time. There is merit in our method too. Do you think that's a bit tricky?
See, let's not forget they won the first one-day international. They batted first, got 316, and that proved to be enough. But that's because Shardul Thakur managed to get those 3 key wickets at the right time. So that can happen today as well. But as you said, the game is moving forward. Maybe all nations around the world aren't playing the English way. But if you want to improve and sort of get the best out of every individual when playing 50 overs cricket, then there is maybe some argument that India didn't quite get the best out of themselves when it came to Rahul and Virat Kohli, because they were both set and they could have maybe just expedited matters a little more. You see that happening today. Having said that, as you said, it's about batting and bowling, and this is, I think, one of the weakest Indian bowling unit in 50 overs cricket that we've seen in a while, especially with Kuldeep Yadav not there, Chahal not there. India have gone in with just one spinner in Krunal Pandya, who is not really a 10 overs bowler. So India have a weakness there, clear weakness with the bowling, because they're missing some of the key bowlers. So all the more reason that the batsmen take the onus on themselves. And today as well, I mean, look to get, without committing kind of harakiri, get to a score where they're sort of, sure that there are limited resources with the bowling can, manage to keep England within that.
Okay, what about personnel? Now, in the absence of Shreyas Iyer, Pant coming in and playing that sort of innings last game, do you now look at that team and think this is perhaps the best balanced personnel in terms of personnel, best balanced bunch of batsmen? Let me try and word this right, but it's got the best balance in terms of the anchors and the aggressors. So you've got Dhawan, Rohit, Kohli, and Rahul in the top 4. Then you've got Pant, Hardik, Krunal to follow. So I'm trying to think of, Sanjay, whether we talk in T20 and we say, oh, it's hard to fit Dhawan, Rohit, Kohli, and Rahul all in the same 11 if they play a certain way. In ODI cricket, does this personnel work to achieve that sort of game that we're discussing?
It's an interesting question, because Shikhar Dhawan is still slightly old school. Virat Kohli as well. I mean, he's not quite a Ben Stokes or Bess or Rishabh Pant, despite his greatness as a batsman. So I don't think one loss should make us feel that India have to completely change their approach. They can still remain a bit traditional, because it's a long game. 50 overs is a long sort of innings. So all I would expect from this Indian batting lineup is that the bowlers that England sort of unleash on them, just play them on merit and not because they're bowling in the first 10, 15 overs, we are not going to take too many risks against them
Mm.
because Virat Kohli and KL Rahul surely have the ability to go after Moeen Ali, and that is likely to happen to them. So that's all you need to tweak. But the fact remains that India's bowling, because of various reasons, is this way, and it's been a long time since we've seen an Indian one-day bowling attack where there hasn't been a game-changing spinner. There's nobody there, just Kunal Pandya. So interesting.
Okay, I'm trying to think of how big the challenge is for players that are conditioned to playing the ODI game, and they've done it so successfully. You could look at Dhawan, Rohit, and Kohli and think of them as ODI greats of their era for certain. Kohli, perhaps of all eras, and the likes of Besto, Roy, they've essentially botched this coming through from the T20 culture. Now, tomorrow, if a Surya Kumar Yadav or other players that have first made it in T20 then come in and do the same thing in 50 overs, whether that transition, Ian, would be more seamless, whereas the more conventional ODI cricketer, which you certainly were when you played a lot of ODI cricket, whether it's so much harder for them to say, no, this is not what I do in 50 overs. I do this in 20 overs, but in 50 overs, I can't change that, or that's harder to change.
Yeah, and I think that's been the big change from I suppose English cricket side of things now. Like Test cricket and T20 cricket are nearly going further and further apart, aren't they? And I think probably again, majority of my time, your best players were picked to play 50 over cricket. Now it's probably the guys who, like someone like a Tom Banton, for instance, who a young player who's done well in T20 cricket gets more an opportunity in the 50 over. So it's nearly picking from that side rather than guys who are scoring big runs either domestically or in Test cricket into 50 overs. So there's a big shift in England for that. And I reckon that would be really fascinating to see how Indian cricket does develop. Not now, because like, as you said, India are a very successful white ball side, a very successful side across all three formats when you look at the numbers. But going forward selection, that will be interesting, whether there is a change. And if there's a T20 opener to go with a Rohit down the line, is that the way you go more than the classy players that obviously of generations gone by have been picked? So that'll be interesting to see where that changes. But it's definitely for English cricket, I would say guys who burst on the scene in T20 cricket have more chance of playing 50 over cricket than the guys of years gone by where you'd pick your best players and your test match batters to adapt to 50 over cricket. So I do think that's evolved, and definitely where England look at now. And I think how you start your innings in white ball cricket in England, if you take your time early to build up to go at the end, I'm not sure you're playing for England anymore. There's probably one role for that. Whereas if you go hard from ball one, you've got more of a chance of playing.
Very interesting to hear that.
That's an excellent, brilliant, just listening to that. And it's wonderful that the sport, continues to evolve. You've got three formats now, and you see the formats also on their own changing. Now we don't need rules now to just make the game more exciting. There's more T20 in 50 overs cricket than ever before. One quick point I want to make on that is also the fact that, Ronak, we saw in the test matches where the pitches were conducive to spin, and that is where you need a certain amount of defensive batting and skills and stuff like that. In 50 overs cricket all over the world, we see curators wanting to dish out a flat pitch. And one of the reasons why England was so impressive, even in the first match when they lost and the second match they won, was because the pitch allowed them to play the way they do. And most pitches around the world, especially in ICC tournaments, will be flat and good for batting. So all the more reason to keep trusting this new age 50 overs method of batting.
I would say as well, Ronak, as well, one of the big changes from the England white ball team now to the teams I played with before were this team are very good on flat pitches. They will outmuscle a lot of teams now. We were I would say in my era, bar Peterson maybe, we didn't have the power players to outmuscle teams on flat plays. Now, we played on an English green seamer or a pitch that turned a bit. We maybe had a few more skills to adapt and get a pass score. Sure. Whereas this team if I was to play this England team, I'd want them on a slightly turning pitch or a pitch that maybe has a bit sideways movement, whether it's seam. But on anything where there's no movement, this team will outpower most teams now in world cricket. And as you said, ICC events generally are on good surfaces. So there's been identified that if English cricket wants to go forward in white ball cricket, we have to be better on flat pitches, which the team I played in probably weren't as good on those surfaces, whereas this team are excellent on flat pitches. They really go hard.
Sorry, one quick point. This is a very interesting discussion. It's just been brilliant listening. I just want to one point. I'm a little surprised, Rana, because we followed Indian cricket over the years. I'm a little surprised that for the final game, I almost sort of imagined that India would get a pitch that will suit their purpose more. A flat batting pitch really is right down England's lane with the kind of batting they have. I thought this would be a dry turning pitch, and we've seen India 50 overs matches also have turning pitches. But at Pune, we haven't seen one turner. And even in this sort of clincher game where I thought they might get a pitch that would help their cause, then maybe a Chahal would have come in, and Krunal Pandya as a quick left-arm spinner gets more out of the pitch. But interestingly, India haven't got that kind of a pitch here in Pune. So that's another interesting factor to just think about.
Yeah, this makes me even more curious on whether the home team just gets pitches, or do they need to ask for them, or does that not happen at all venues? Is that something that used to happen when Sanjay Majrekar played back in the 90s and the 2000s?
No, I think, every venue, the equation is slightly different. The relationship is different. If you remember South Africa, when they chased down against India at the Wankhede Stadium, Ravi Shastri had
Yes.
some, issue with Mr. Sudhir Naik, who was the main curator at the
That's
Wankhede
right.
Stadium. He wasn't very happy with that surface that India got. So yes, somewhere I think that happens all over the world, where the curator somehow gets an idea of the kind of pitch that his team wants.
Okay, maybe a quick comment, and it's going to be tough to be in Kuldeep Yadav's shoes at the moment. But you'd think, Sanjay, that if you had one gun spinner, that you would want to play him no matter what the conditions, and whatnot. And it does seem like whether it's a call on conditions or whether it's a call of loss in confidence, but Virat Kohli doesn't feel like that one gun spinner, which you think is good enough to play everywhere, is still the case for Indian cricket. There is Yuzvendra Chahal, but he doesn't make it. Kuldeep Yadav clearly isn't showing the sort of form or wicket-taking ability that he used to. Is this also a bit of a concern looking forward in ODI cricket for India?
If the pitches continue to be flat like this,
Yeah.
and if India have to bowl under lights, we saw Kuldeep Yadav struggled. Kuldeep Yadav struggled against England in England because of the small grounds. So yes, he's going to find it very difficult if the pitches continue to be like this. Unfortunately, bowled in the second half of the match where there was nothing. Chahal as well is somewhat similar. They are not. Chahal is also somebody, if he has to make an impact, has to have something there in the surface for him. Same with, say, Akshay Patel or a Jadeja or a Krunal Pandya. So there's not an out-and-out spinner that India have who can be their sort of, bank of 10 overs plus likely to get 2-3 wickets on a flat pitch. So interestingly, we have come to that stage. Kuldeep Yadav and Chahal were those spinners for a while. But now, on an absolute flat pitch, I don't think there's a spinner around of that kind.
It's interesting we say that, because we thought wrist spinners on flat pitches would be the more potent weapon, and now it looks like from finger spinners to wrist spinners, we're moving to the seamers. It's an interesting shift from a team that almost pioneered.
Also, Ronak, I think Kuldeep Yadav needs a little bit of work that he needs to do on his bowling. So when that happens, hopefully he'll be that spinner. Or maybe somebody like a Rahul Chahar can be that spinner. He's quicker, he's a little stronger than Kuldeep Yadav. So on a flat pitch, if they want a wrist spinner, Rahul Chahar could be an option.
I suppose it's fascinating for Yadav as well going forward, because he's got an IPL around the corner. And again, I would imagine any batting teams are going to say he's low on confidence. If he plays, let's target him, aren't they? So it's not an easy ride coming up either. You want to get your confidence up and get lots of wickets, but it's going to be a delicate kind of sort of how the coach is getting back to playing his best is going to be really important. How he's managed is going to be, I said, really, really important for him.
And we talk about batsmen making shifts from T20 to 50 overs and how England almost encouraged that sort of approach and those type of batsmen. But if you look at wrist spinners, is that making a difference as well? Adil Rashid has become a premium spinner in T20 cricket. He's gone for a few in the last couple of games, but it seems like there's now a place for Adil Rashid in England's ODI 11 no matter what, and the rest of the team can figure itself out. Ian, is that, again, a spinner who's aced his game from T20 to 50, and Sanjay, conversely, Kuldeep Yadav, having lost his place in T20s, now also has the insecurity of having to prove it in one format? Ian, you first.
Yeah, look, I think Adil Rashid's development's been incredible. I think he's put Test cricket to bed for a while, and certainly has. And so I think he focuses on, a certain skill set. Also, I think he's been managed well. I think Morgan has given him so much confidence that he's his main guy. Like, again, bowling the first over in the first T20. I think Adil Rashid, as knowing him as a guy, is a lovely guy. But again, if he feels he's supported and backed, I think you're going to get the best out of him. And I think Morgan and the management have done an incredible job on making him as confident and the belief in him as much as possible. And one of his best assets, he's got a fantastic googly. And again, with the white ball, not as easy to pick under lights. So that's one of his big assets, that he does have a good wrong one. But you can see over time his control and his areas. His bad ball is not as bad as it used to be. It's all getting all neat and tidy, what he does. But yeah, he's been a fantastic weapon, and it's taken a bit of time to get him to this. I mean, it was obviously peaked for the World Cup, which he played a massive part in, but it's taken a time on the journey. But I think the management of him and the belief that he gets from the group is so important on him delivering well for England.
Sanjay, last word on this?
Yeah, the belief is the key word there. And I think Kuldeep Yadav is one of those, kind of bowlers, and most wrist spinners who are like him, slow, who flight the ball, can be expensive, need a captain who is excited by that kind of a bowler, captain who wants that kind of a bowler to be a part of the side. And I think that faith wasn't shown in Kuldeep Yadav during the 2019 World Cup when he came to England as a game changer along with Chahal, and then lost his place in the side after one game against England when they went to the cleaners, both of them. So somewhere I think he's been trying to convince Virat Kohli that he's good enough to be a part of this outfit. Having said that, you can't blame the captain for everything.
Sure.
Kuldeep Yadav also now needs to find a way to survive on flat pitches. And that's where I've said last time as well, when he was bowling the wrong gun to the right-hander, the balls weren't turning at all. So somewhere, not just his leg spinner, if he's bowling the googly as well, if you try and get it to turn, so at least there is some chance right-hander, when they're trying to hit him, that the ball is they're trying to hit against the turn. So some work there. But such talent like Kuldeep Yadav will only flourish if they've got a captain who's really excited and wanting him to be a part of the playing 11.
All right. Well, it's an endangered species. Suddenly, wrist spinners have become endangered species in the conversation, at least in ODI cricket. I don't know how many you can name or think that would walk into an ODI 11 in all conditions, but maybe we'll have that conversation more in detail a little later. Innings is already underway. Let's keep a close eye on India's approach and pick up the conversation in 50 overs time with Ian Bell and Sanjay Majrekar. Gentlemen, thank you very much. See you at halftime on ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Realme X7 5G and X7 Pro 5G.
Thank you.